Hi everyone, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com and today I'm here with David Wright. Hi Dave.
Hello.
So just as an introduction, Dave is the co-author of dark horror fiction with Sean Platt, including the series Yesterday's Gone, Z2134 and Whitespace and many more. He also draws the comic strip Todd and Penguin, as well as being 1/3 of the Selfpublishing podcast team. Does that about sum you up these days, Dave?
It's a start.
Well, that is a start because now I'm going to ask you, tell us a bit more about your background and how you got into writing fiction.
I've always been writing, and I've alternated between writing and drawing since I was a child. I would go through spurts of one or the other. Most of it was an escape. I found school incredibly boring. I did not have many friends once I hit middle school and hit the awkward phase. So I just pretty much withdrew into my own fantasy world where I would draw and write and I'd make up comics and stuff. And that I started doing the comic strip back in, I think, 99, and that carried through to about 2008. I haven't done it in a while. I toy with bringing it back, though, in another form. Um, I had a newspaper job for a while where I was a reporter, and I was also an editorial cartoonist. So that I got that job originally to be a cartoonist, and then they found out I could write too. So the drawing actually kind of brought me back into writing. And if it weren't for that job, I probably would not be writing fiction right now because that basically put me in the seat writing thousands of words a day. And, I had constant deadlines. That's the first time I ever had anything like that. Before then, if I was left to my own devices, it would take me a century to finish one book. So that's where it put a routine in place for me. And when the newspaper closed up in 2008, everything, went to crap here. I went online and started writing. That's how I met Sean Platt, and we decided to work together. And, that's how I am where I am right now.
But that's pretty good timing considering 2008 was when the Kindle was launched. Do you think you would have done this without self-publishing?
Well, we tried doing serials on our website and even selling directly to people, and that did not work. If it were not for Kindle, I don't know that we'd be doing this at all. That pretty much revolutionized everything. And yeah, I think it was around 2011. We were actually, we were busy working and stuff. We didn't really hit Kindle till 2011, so we were, early, but not that early on it.
People are going to look back at us as pioneers in 20 years' time.
Yes.
But you said a couple of things there. You mentioned that you have this kind of the writing and you have the drawing, and I think you almost said there that you draw as a kind of escape and writing became this job. Do you still equate the drawing with pleasure and the writing with hard?
Uh, Whatever I'm doing for money becomes hard. Because that's what I have to do, and I have the deadlines and stuff. So when I was drawing, that could become hard. I mean, none of them as hard as digging ditches or actual real jobs where you get up from your seat. But they're mentally taxing either way. I think drawing is probably a little bit easier for me. I don't know.
Yeah, and in terms, you also do book cover design. How do you think your visual art skills help your fiction writing?
My fiction writing, I think there's some really good scenes that I've written because I'm thinking visually. Some very scary scenes, like one of the ones we have one in one of the seasons of Yesterday's Gone where somebody is trapped in a truck full of people, and there is a zombie type monster aboard, and it's completely dark, and that scene is absolutely terrifying, and I think that's because I was thinking of it visually and imagining, and as a movie or TV scene how that would play out, and we get a lot of comments on that scene in particular as being pretty scary. So.
And what about dialogue? Because of course a lot of comics have the bubbles and things. Do you think you got a lot of practice doing that?
Yes, because in comics you have to distill everything down to its bare essence to get the point across. You can't go on and on and on in a comic and have there's a rhythm and method to it, and you kind of discover that as you do comics. I don't know how much that's translated. Maybe. I think it's given me an ear for dialogue that I might not have had otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And the other thing you mentioned was this journalistic background. And the last interview on this podcast was Kerry Wilkinson, who's just written like 14 books all in, like the last year. And I asked him what his secret was, and he was a journalist, similar at writing to deadline. So is that what you find enables you to meet these crazy deadlines?
I think Sean is what helps me meet, because I don't want to let him down. We're co-writing everything together. Like I said, if left to my own devices, we'd have one book out maybe. So it's not letting him down. Otherwise, I'm a perfectionist, and I would go over it all day and all night and forever and ever.
Oh, how interesting. Right, you also, you write some dark stuff. You just mentioned one of the scenes there, and you've got some nasty, nasty characters, and one of your themes is apparently children in jeopardy comes up a lot. And readers love this. Do you ever, where do you think this comes from as humans, this dark stuff?
Our fears, I think. I think I write about the things that terrify me. Sometimes I'll kind of disguise them, or maybe I'll even go back to childhood fears. I think as a father, I felt the children in jeopardy thing, I think, is because I'm a father. I don't know that I would have felt that before I was. And you actually have somebody else, relying on you and counting on you for their life, and not being able to do anything about that at times is a very hard thing to face. Like my son is in first grade now, and I'm just waiting for that whole moment where bullying becomes an issue. And I don't know what I'll do, because I was bullied, and I don't know how to help him handle that. That scares me like anything. So stuff like that, and just our fears. I think it's a cathartic thing, and I think people that read horror, or even some sci-fi and fantasy that's a little scarier, I think it is a cathartic sort of release to help us face our own fears.
And I'm getting a lot of comments about my latest book, Desecration, which is a lot darker than my normal stuff, and people are
welcome to the dark side.
Yeah, well, this is it. And I was going to ask you, is it just because I'm a girl people ask these questions, or do people ask you? You seem like a nice guy. Where do you come up with this stuff?
I can't answer the whole because you're a girl thing. That seems sort of a ignorant comment. I don't know. I do think it is your personality, though. Like, if people know you as a nice person, then yeah, they might be like, "Where is that coming from?" So, fortunately, I have a gruff exterior, so nobody's really all that surprised.
But you do have
maybe my mother.
Yeah, but you do have a young son. So how do you keep the separation between the dark side and your child?
I don't read him my stories. I read him things that are, appropriate to his age. And I don't. One of the things about childhood is, you're only innocent for so long, and I don't want to do anything to damage that. The world is crushing enough on its own. He'll find out on his own. So the only thing I can do is support him as much as I can, so he'll be ready when it happens. But I don't want to scare him about that stuff. I want him to hold on to whatever beliefs he has, as long as he wants them. So.
And who were your influences when you were younger that you think have come through now?
On the comics side, Charles Schultz, Berkeley Breathed, who did Bloom County, Calvin and Hobbes, Bill Watterson. Those are primary influences on the comics side. And I escaped a lot in their worlds, mostly Peanuts when I was growing up. I remember going to my grandmother's house, and they had a bunch of hardcover books of the collections from the 50s and 60s. And I absolutely loved reading them. I would just, go sit in a room by myself and read them while everybody's out talking. And I don't know that it was magical to me. It was bringing me into another world, and that's what I've always wanted to do as a writer and artist, to bring other people into my world, a form of escape. What was the question? I got lost.
On your influences. So that was the comic side. What about the fiction?
Stephen King, Clive Barker, Dean R. Koontz are the primary, influences.
Yeah, absolutely. I can identify with that. And yeah, so again, sort of on this line, and I mention your family because it's so interesting. And on your personal blog or your author blog that's just you have pictures of your son. You talk very openly about your life. And it seems very authentic. You share everything. Is that deliberate? And do you draw any line with privacy?
For my own privacy, I do not draw a line. I do protect the privacy of my family. I don't feature my wife in my blog because, she's a private person. My son, I wouldn't write anything that, he'd be embarrassed if he went to school and somebody had read. But I think as he gets older, I will not write about him. I don't write about him a whole lot on that blog. I used to have a blog called bloggerdad.com, which was my first blog. And that was pretty much just about me as a father and him and, that whole thing. And that was, I started that with the intention of just, chronicling, my first time fatherhood. And I decided with that one that, once he hit elementary school, I would stop that because, I didn't, kids get on the internet early these days and I don't want people reading anything that he doesn't want them to read. So.
No, I find that I don't ever share my husband's name, and we have a separate surname, so I think that's really important too. I was going to ask you, just back on the comics, the rise of graphic novels seems to be happening online now. Do you see that comics and graphic novels are having a renaissance?
I think so, yeah. Comics, I was, I did, in 99, I was one of the first web comic people. I mean, there were others before us, but I was among the first. And that it was starting to grow then, and now there's like there seems to be a million of them. I think though that devices like tablets, Kindle, and stuff like that are actually providing comic artists with a way to make an income that was never there before. When I was doing it, the only way you could make money really is, selling to your readers, but most people, they want it for free. The only way to really make money on it was through advertising. And there were only a few online comics that were killing it at advertising. And then everybody else was just kind of doing it, out of the love of doing it. But now I think if you can build an audience now, you can deliver something to them that they'll want. And now there's never been a better time to be an artist or a writer.
And do you see yourself doing like a graphic novel of Yesterday's Gone?
No, that's not my style. I'm not good enough. I have a specific style. It's comic strip. It's, Calvin and Hobbes, Peanuts, sort of that simplistic sort of drawing. Although, those guys could draw very well. But comic books are completely a different thing. I would screw it up big time.
It would be great to see, though. I mean, that interests me very much.
Yeah, someday if somebody wants to partner with us or something, I might make it happen.
Yeah. So let's just come to how your model works. So can you just explain serialized fiction for people who don't really get it, and also how you collaborate?
Serial to us, there's a few different ways serials can be described in book form. Some are breaking down a book into serialized chunks. We're actually more of delivering a TV show in book form. That was our idea when we started out in 2011. And essentially, the books are broken down into episodes, which are then collected into seasons. So each season, kind of stands on its own, although there's to be continued stuff. There's stuff that continues. But we're really big on cliffhangers. So the end of each episode is a big cliffhanger that will leave you like mad and upset. And we love that. We love email where people are like, what? That's the best thing ever. And we started off, KDP Select was, really powerful then, and we were able to use the single episodes to, get a lot of attention for ourselves, and that sold the seasons. It's changed a little bit, so we're reconsidering how we're going to do serials going forward. Maybe collecting 2 episodes into one book at a time. This is really getting into, I don't know how much people want to hear. But basically, we write like the TV shows we'd want to see, on HBO, Showtime, AMC, all those things. We write it in book form since, we don't have a network, so we write it. And we're big fans of serialized TV.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do that in book form. The original inspiration was Stephen King's The Green Mile back in, I think, 95 or 96. I read that and I was like, I have to do this. This is awesome. I loved it. I love being kept waiting. I hate it and love it at the same time. And, even when I was a kid, I watched soap operas. I was one of the few guys that probably did that. But I just love the whole serialized thing. And Sean and I, we collaborate on it. Each one's a little bit different. Sometimes I'm like, I'll write more and he'll edit. And other times we'll kind of do our own thing together and then get together and edit. We basically both write it together completely.
And then just to come back on the serialized fiction, you also got picked up by Amazon for Amazon serials. And I know you can't talk about anything contractual or anything, but how does that differ in terms of the reader experience from how Amazon do serials to how the rest of us have to do serials right now because the technology is not there?
The thing about the 47 North Amazon serials are that you buy one book and it is updated automatically. That is awesome. We can't do that. Our indie stuff, we have to release separate episodes. It's a big pain. So the Amazon, their serial thing is awesome. I wish they would allow it for indie authors. Because selling it in separate books, you have to go out and then buy, and then you have all these books on your device. That's not the ideal way to do it. It's what we're doing is not ideal. We'd love for people just to be able to buy one thing, and it's automatically updated. So right now we can only do that with the serials on 47 North.
And the reviews are the biggest thing, I think. It splits reviews, right?
Oh, for episodes? Yes. You basically have to beg your audience, hey, I know you already reviewed the episode. Can you please go review the season? Fortunately, we've got, I would say, more than half the readers we have will buy the full season. They'll wait for the full season. They want it all at once. They don't want to wait. So, and usually they review the full season. So we've been kind of lucky there. But early on, a lot of people reviewing the episodes as they came out. Now, people rarely review the episodes. They mostly review the full season. But yes, it's all very cumbersome, and I hate having to ask the audience or explain to them how, okay, I know you did this, but can you now do that? It's just a big pain. People ought to be able to read the book and enjoy it and whatever. Yeah,
and managing the books on the back end as well, all the different...
I hate that.
Yeah. I hate it, and I've only got about 8 books. And you guys have got bazillions.
Yeah.
You really have. Now, just on the collaboration, because I'm a total control freak, I really want what you have with Sean, but I feel like it just couldn't happen for me. So what type of personality is good for this collaborative model?
It depends on your personality, I guess. You have to find somebody that compliments you. Sean and I are different. He's very optimistic and happy-go-lucky. He's like a puppy. And I am more of a cynical, guarded person, but we work well together because our weaknesses and strengths complement one another. He pulls me further than I'd want to go, and I think I protect him from some of the worst mistakes we could have made. So,
and how does ego work in it? Like whose bit was written by who, and is there any of that, or do you guys are you egoless?
I would say that we're very egoless. We don't worry about that. I know it is something that a lot of writers would probably have difficulty with if somebody else is getting credit for something that they wrote. Because I think any form of art is ego. And you do want to be recognized. You want to be like, you want people to say, oh, that was awesome, you did that. But at the same time, it's kind of, it's kind of like a marriage or a partnership, isn't it? We did it together. Some things I did, some things he did. And I'm not very worried about who gets credit. I think people kind of, they see us working together, and it's those guys. So we both get credit. I suppose if I worked with a bunch of different writers, it might be a little bit different. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, just on that marriage analogy, I mean, it's a financial thing as well. As in, you guys sell loads and make so much money, and this is like a long-term relationship. So did you put that all down in a contract before you even started publishing together?
No, we created an LLC, but we haven't, we haven't taken all the, we haven't like if this have no, we're sort of a handshake sort of deal. I trust Sean more than I probably trust anybody that I've met in the past few years. So I'm not worried about it. And worst comes to worst, we both just walk away. We do our own thing. But I'm not terribly worried about it. I think if you worry about those sorts of things, then you probably shouldn't be writing with that person. Yeah,
and I think that's the point. So if people are trying to emulate your success, then it's probably worth them doing something contractual. I mean, I am risk averse, really. So
me too.
I've been divorced. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Were you such close friends with Sean before you went into this, or has your relationship developed? Obviously, it's developed, but did you trust him that much when you went in?
I think so, because, well, the story on how I met Sean was he, when I had lost my job, I was considering doing some sort of newspaper column. I was even thinking about, the Blogger Dad sort of thing as a newspaper column. So my initial idea was to create a website where I could start doing that, get some attention, and then sell it to newspapers. My initial idea for a domain name was writerdad.com. I went to go buy it. It was available. I went to go buy it. And then I said, no, I'm going to try something else that, newspapers might be more attracted to than Writer Dad. I don't even remember the other thing I got, but I got that. And then a few weeks went by, and I'm like, I really want Writer Dad. I don't like this one. So I went back to buy it, and it was gone. And I was like, who stole my name? So I went, and it was Sean. And I wrote him an email. I said, you stole my domain, you jerk. Tongue-in-cheek, of course. So, but what I found was that I really liked what I was reading. We seemed very similar, even though he's a little bit younger than I am. And we just started talking from there. And we hit it off. And I went and did the Blogger Dad. And, we both built our own audiences on those blogs. And we started writing, and we started working together, like, doing copy and stuff. All the stuff that writers do, we were doing together. And we were going through... we were going through the hard times that you go through as a freelancer when you're starting up together. And everything about Sean impressed me. He's a very loyal guy, a very honest guy. And that's what I look for in the people I partner with. If I can't trust them, I won't work with them. So yeah, I think I'm a pretty good judge of character. So for Sean to have... I think I had an idea of who he was, basically, within a month. And that was enough for me.
Right, and Sean, if you're listening, is probably blushing, but
His tail's wagging.
Yeah, I think that's really important because, I think about this all the time. I listen to you guys on the podcast and I'm like, oh, I really want a collaborative, creative partner, and then I just think, oh, it's really hard to find someone. And I think, that if you believe in serendipity, that was serendipitous.
I don't know if I believe in that, but okay.
Yeah, you're meant to be together, Dave.
We're getting married.
Yeah. Okay, so I also wanted just one question back on blogging, because blogging goes in and out of fashion, and is it marketing? Is it writing practice? What is it for you? Why do you still like it?
It's a way to connect with your audience. I've been horribly inconsistent at blogging because I write so much. I mean, I'm writing 60, 70 hours a week. So I don't blog nearly as much as I would like to. Ideally, I would blog, at least 3-4 times a week. And that's my goal, to get back to that. But it is, connecting with your audience. And for writers, I think it's we're in a different position where I don't know how many people that directly read writer blogs specifically buy your books. They might want it. They might come for advice that pertains to them specifically. So not all those people will be your readers. However, I think it opens up networks, and you'll meet people that you would not otherwise meet. I mean, I'm meeting you. Chuck Wendig, Dave Gogren, Hugh Howey, all the different people we met through our various blogging efforts. We wouldn't have met them otherwise. So it's a great chance to, speak with like-minded people, and you might not get those people as readers, but I don't think it matters. And I think it will open up other opportunities for you. Like they might know somebody that might like Yesterday's Gone or something, and they'll say, hey, check out this book. So in the end, I think it all helps, but you shouldn't get too bogged down with trying to get like comments and
Yeah.
I would just stick with writing, and eventually you'll find your audience. But don't chase comments. Don't go on other people's blogs, like searching just to get someone to come back to your blog. I mean, a lot of people say to do that, and you can, I guess, but I don't. It's short-term thinking.
Yeah, that's so 2011. I got to pick up there that you said you write 60 to 70 hours a week, and that's just the writing and the editing as well?
Writing, editing, it's probably the other stuff too.
Okay. I was going to say, you wouldn't be sleeping.
I don't.
I mean, you're working damn hard. I know you and Sean work really hard.
And Johnny.
Yeah, and Johnny. I have had Johnny on the podcast, so we're going to come back to the SPP threesome in a minute. But that's 60, 70 hours a week. I mean, that's pretty hardcore. Do you guys do you have like a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan of where you want to be? Is that what? Because you can't sustain that for the next 50 years.
50? We have internal plans, not specific. Sean is more of a planner than I am. I'm sort of a, we'll just see what sort of happens kind of guy. So.
But what's your goal as a writer? I mean, do you want to be on the Forbes richest author list? Do you want to be voted for some prize?
No, I don't care about prizes at all. What I would like more than anything is to write television. I'd love to see our Whitespace on AMC or HBO or Showtime. That to me would be awesome, to be like a showrunner for that, because we're big into serials, and we have other writing goals. Like I want to write children's books and illustrate those, and Sean has other writing goals that he has. So we have a bunch of different goals, but if you ask me to narrow it down to one, it would be to write for television.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think everyone needs a goal. I really do. Now, let's get back to the Self-Publishing podcast. I'm pretty sure that most of my listeners have tried the show and either love it
and ran away screaming.
Love it or hate it. Because, I have a clean show. You guys don't. You're very funny. I'm not.
I think you're funny.
I'm interview-based and you're more chat-based. You do some interviews. But what do you just give us a bit of an overview about the podcast and what it's done for you. Why do you like it?
Initially, Sean and I were going to do a podcast, and Johnny had hit Sean up separately and said, "Hey, you want to do a podcast?" He didn't know that Sean and I were thinking about doing it. And to be honest, if Sean and I were just to do it on it, probably wouldn't have happened for another year or so. But that I envisioned more as an interview sort of show. Johnny got involved, and he's like, I'll handle the tech side of it, and he's a very networked sort of guy, so he can get things done. And Sean knew him, so I was like, okay, you trust him, I'll trust him. And it's just, I was unsure when we first started of what it would be, but it's grown into something quite awesome, and it's almost completely by accident. I don't know how much is by design. It just seems like, a happy accident. It's very laid back. We're very conversational. It really is. It's us brainstorming together, everything that's worked for us and not worked for us. We get into arguments. We have people on. We get their take on things. So it's basically our journeys as writers. And if you want to listen along, we've got lots of foul language. But other than that, it's a friendly show. I mean, we're not yelling at people, just each other. So.
Oh no! I mean, I'm an avid listener. I love the show, and we should mention Johnny B. Truant, who is
no, don't mention that guy.
We've all loved Up with Sean. So Johnny is the author of Fat Vampire, the co-author of The Beam. And what's been interesting with your show, of course, is you and Sean have taken Johnny from someone who took 12 years to write one book, and he's now written, again, bazillions in 18 months. I mean,
I think he's writing more than I am right now.
So what I'm asking you guys is for some kind, and I know you have a laugh about your $97 products and stuff, but I'd love a sort of, you take us all on author boot camp. We go somewhere and you help us all write 10 books in like a week.
Not interested.
But I should say you do have something coming out, don't you? What is your book for writers?
Write, Publish, Repeat, I believe is the title of it. There is pretty much everything that we've learned over the past year and a half or so. I didn't write a whole lot of it myself. It was mostly them. I did the interviews, so I had the easy part.
But, and I mean, if you could, that's going to be available from, I think, the 5th of December. So people can get that. That will be on Amazon. That will be on Collective Inkwell, I guess.
I guess it might be there. Yeah, it'll be a Selfpublishing podcast. Basically, it's advice for writing. But without all there's a ton of bad writing books on Amazon, like Get Rich Quick, schemes and telling you to do things you really should not do. It's none of that. It's all very honest, no BS sort of guide to writing. It's what works for us. So.
And I mean, Dave, you've been at this creative game a long time, and you're doing all this stuff. Do you still feel like you're learning things? Like, what excites you about what's happening in the industry?
I think it's always a learning process. The whole everything to do with all the various technologies, all the platforms and such. It's an interesting time. It's very up and down. It's hard to really figure out what to do. So I'm more of a I'm just going to write, and I'm not going to worry too much about all that other stuff. There's a lot of people that worry about every single little thing, like should I do this? Should I do that? Should I change this genre? And I can't think about that because it would just destroy my writing. So I tend not to think too much about those things. I do keep an eye on them, and I do, I read, the latest news and stuff, but I don't worry too much about it. I worry mostly about writing good stories and reaching our audience. That's the number one thing that I want to do. So.
No, brilliant. And if people want to try your fiction, just give us a quick rundown of what people might like.
Like what kind of books we write, or?
Yeah, like what's out there if people want to try your fiction.
Oh, Yesterday's Gone is our most successful book. That's our best-selling book to date. Sort of like The Stand meets Lost, I guess, is how a lot of people have described it. Whitespace is my personal favorite. It's set on a fictional island off the coast of Washington State. I can't really say what it's about. It's very mysterious. It opens up with a school shooting, but not the kind of school shooting you normally see. And it's very mysterious, sort of very paranoid vibe to it that I love, claustrophobic sort of thing. But it's also our most character-driven story. The characters in that book are very real, and people write us all the time about it. So those are the two that I, most promote.
Yeah,
I love.
and I've read Whitespace and I loved it. It was great.
Z2135 is our latest 47 North book. It's sort of The Walking Dead meets The Hunger Games. Z2134, I wish we can go back and edit a little for various reasons, but Z2135 is really awesome. But you got to read Z2134 to get to Z2135. It's very hard to promote that book because the first half of it, I feel like, I'd love a do-over on that.
Yeah.
It was a little bit rough, but it got really good in the next one. So
fantastic. So where can people find you and your books online?
collectiveinkwell.com. That's our books, and me you can find at davidwright.com.
And the podcast?
The Self-Publishing Podcast.
.com.
Yes.
Oh, well, thanks ever so much for your time, Dave. That was great.
Thank you.